Hello and welcome again to Civil Engineering Today, sponsored by the Boston Society of Civil Engineers. This show, we're going to be having a two-part show focusing on engineering and education. The first part, we're going to do a little overview on the Society's own outreach program, and then we're going to introduce you to our very special guest, the head of the National Center for Technological Literacy, Yvonne Spicer. As far as the Society's outreach program, what it basically does is it encourages our professional members, civil engineering members, to go directly into their community schools and mentor students on some of the civil engineering competitions held both locally and nationally each year. One of our most active volunteers, who also heads the program, is also our co-host this evening, Reed Brockman.
That's me.
Reed has been heading the program for the past 5 years and has successfully steered it into having a hands-on, learning is fun mentality, which won him the American Society of Civil Engineers Public Service Award and also Boston Society of Civil Engineers Good Citizen Award.
And, but that's enough about me. I'm like the not-so-special guest. Our special guest today is Yvonne Spicer, and she's the Associate Director of the National Center for Technological Literacy. I'll tell you a little bit about her before we start. She grew up in Brooklyn, and she studied, technology and engineering when she was in high school and architecture. She was a tinkerer. She tinkered with everything and went on, came to Framingham. When she came to Framingham, she taught like everything. She taught woodworking. She taught computer programming, photography, drafting, pretty much every subject, every hands-on subject that there is almost. And after that, she went on to be the director of career in technology education in Newton. And after that, she became the state coordinator for technology and engineering. And then finally coming on to be the national associate director of the National Center for Technological Literacy. For those who are not familiar with that, that is located, their home is at the Museum of Science. And let's ask some questions.
Actually, I have a question. I just recently heard about your program, so I'm sure there's a lot of other people who just need to know basically what is it that you strive to do and maybe how you came about.
Well, thank you first for that generous introduction. Our programs at the museum, the National Center was first started in 2003 by our president, Giannis Mialis, who is the president director of the Museum of Science and also the director of the National Center. So I am the associate director and responsible for formal education. So that is all of our programs that work directly with schools. That's a large part of my responsibility. And how the center was started was the brainchild of some of the work we had done here in Massachusetts, and that's creating standards. We have standards in Massachusetts for technology and engineering. And we are also one of the very first states to have an assessment in those areas of technology and engineering. So we built our center from the standards and looking at some of our national standards as well for tech engineering, and to looking at, clearly the vision that was created by our president was seeing how students were left out of career high-tech and engineering fields, and how do we address this issue in our schools. So that was the impetus of the center. And over the last couple of years, over the last 3 years, we have built many different programs with curriculum, professional development, as well as community outreach programs and building district-wide leadership teams, which I can talk a little bit more about, but that was the impetus.
Actually, that brings up an interesting question. I know the MCAS, or standardized testing of any kind, is very controversial. Does your program try to play some part at all? I've heard that recently, I think it's 4th grade, like 25%.
I think it's a requirement in 10th grade for graduation. That's
25% is engineering based now?
Well, to look at MCAS and the movement within our state actually occurred in 1993 with the passing of the Ed Reform Act that asked 4 standards in curriculum throughout Massachusetts, but also the assessment program in order for a student to receive a high school diploma in Massachusetts. Of course, we started with English language arts and mathematics, and science and technology engineering will be coming on board in the year, as it stands now, 2010. The class of 2010, in order to receive a diploma, will have to pass an assessment in science and technology and engineering. And currently the test is given in grades 5 and 8, and and as well as 9 and 10 in high school.
One thing that, I mean, I'm sort of, preaching to converted, because I know why, but it's when we talk about technological literacy, what really, I don't think a lot of people out there really understand why it's such a big issue right now. Of course, I believe it is, because I spend all my time doing it also, but why is it such a major issue? Is there a real crisis in our country right now?
I think there's a real big issue. First of all, and you hit it right on the head, defining what is technology. And how we look at technology. Technology is everything that we touch. The human-made world is technology. And most folks' definition of technology is computers. Not to think that the clothing we're wearing, the table we're sitting at, these chairs that we're sitting in, is a form of technology. So I think we have to broaden our definition of what we classify as technology. Now, the importance of this, the studies, the research has told us that our students are falling behind. In terms of the number of students pursuing careers in technical fields as well as engineering is far below some of our other countries, such as China and India. And most recently I read a report about Mexico and how they are really driving the mission to have more students pursue careers in engineering. And so we have to examine what we do in schools. Why aren't students pursuing these careers? And there's been some great research coming out on looking at the number of students that identify engineering as a career pathway, but unfortunately these are the students that are oftentimes blocked out of getting into engineering schools because if you look at the courses they've taken in high school, haven't prepared them adequately to pursue those careers in colleges. So we have to really examine everything we're doing, not just starting at high school, but really looking at the whole K through 12 spectrum of what is being taught and how are we using knowledge to expand children's horizons. So that's a real big focus that needs to be paid attention to.
Actually, that's something I was gonna ask you about. I've noticed a trend lately with philanthropists giving to education programs that are specifically engineering based, and I know you just received an award, so rather large award. How does what sort of programs, other than research, do you have any programs already in place being utilized? Like, how can people get involved in them?
Oh, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, we started with the standards, and from our standards, we looked at what kind of curriculum material is out there that is engineering focused K through 12. And we found a few things, but we also found a whole lot of holes in the curriculum that didn't match the standards, which is very important. That there is some state standards that we have to make sure teachers are able to cover in some of the curriculum work, and that was the impetus for us developing our curriculum materials that are based on our standards. And we started at the elementary level. Our elementary program is called Engineering is Elementary, which is a series of about 20 books that will be developed over the course of the next 3 years.
I've seen some of them. They're very...
Well, I did bring one with us, and since we're focusing on civil engineering, Javier, the story of Javier, which is a civil engineering book. Along with each one of these books, there is a curriculum unit plan that teachers can use with lesson plans and activities for the students. So this is a really wonderful introduction to engineering. But the other neat thing about the whole series of books, that it focuses on our global perspective and our global world. Javier is from Mexico, and I think all of our books focuses on a different area of engineering, but also a different part of the world, which I absolutely love because students are also seeing themselves included in these books and their cultural heritage and background in the books too. So that's our elementary series. Right now we are We've field tested a lot of our curriculum with schools across the country. Right now, about 12,000 students are using our curriculum across the country.
Oh, wow.
And it's very, very exciting. And even, I initially would say around the country, but we have expanded internationally because there are some schools that in Greece as well as Taiwan that are using our curriculum right now, piloting it. So it's a very, very exciting project, and the feedback has been wonderful because the professional development we offer for teachers helps them understand the connection between science and engineering, as well as social studies, because that's another little tangential part of the curriculum. So that's where we started with the elementary school, and then of course we move to the other extreme, where we saw a lot of holes in the curriculum materials, and that's the high school course, which we call Engineering the Future. And once again, it is based on our state standards here in Massachusetts, as well as the national standards. And the textbook is written from the lens of 32 different engineers.
Wow.
And
Yeah, I took a look.
so
It's
it's a
pretty nice.
really
the book a
neat
lot.
book. And the other thing that I love, and we did this, it's sort of like an informal study of students. Look at the cover. It's not your traditional looking engineering book that doesn't have a whole lot of graphics, so it makes it a little more appealing for students. The course is going to be the course is designed for students in grade 9. It is meant to be an introductory experience for students, and hopefully building upon their knowledge that they've gained in the elementary, middle school, and certainly through our course in the high school. So that's the impetus of our work. But once again, we really focus on the professional development for teachers because they have to feel confident that this is something that is workable within their curriculum in their school districts.
That is something that I've heard directly from teachers, that they wish there was more of that.
Right, and the other thing that's really beautiful about it is the hands-on activities.
Yes.
It's, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but sometimes people just get too hyperactive throwing out the words math and science all the time, and they lose
Creativity.
the whole idea of the creativity that's behind it.
Well, one of the things when we hear the term STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, and you're absolutely right, oftentimes the conversation leads to the science and math. So as I say, we tend to talk a lot about the S and the M, but leave the T and the E out of our discussions, and that is a big thrust of our work, is to really talk about the value of T&E working collaboratively with math and science and showing students how do we apply math and science to real-world solutions to problems. How does it work? And that is a critical point that we focus on all of our programs. And the interesting thing is having the results that are just absolutely amazing, where students are getting it. Even as young as 5, 6 years old, they are understanding.
Oh, they're clever.
And they are curious about how does this work? How does our world work? So why not build upon that? And then that's the thing that I don't think we do enough of, building upon what is a natural curiosity in children.
Right. And I've sometimes in the elementary age, it's you know, they're so open to doing hands-on activities where you have to work harder with the high school students to get them to stop acting like high school students sometimes and act like kids again and remember who they are.
Well, being one that has taught high school and enjoyed it immensely, I think within high school, we tend to compartmentalize knowledge. And by that I mean students, they experience their coursework, they go to English class, then they go to math class, and very rarely do they have an opportunity to connect all of those bodies of knowledge that they need elements of that to do anything, and be it engineering, you know, writing an engineering report, using mathematics to solve calculation problems, using their skills in art. I mean, those are the disconnects that happen for students in school that I'm most concerned about. How do we change the paradigm? How do we shift that to a way that students realize that all of these pieces of knowledge help us in some way?
That's
so
actually,
that's the one big challenge.
That's actually how I fell into engineering. Was I do a lot of sculpture and I needed information on structures, and that's actually how. And I loved it once I got into it, and you know, once I had a reason, you never heard that when I was in school. You never heard someone pushing the more creative side, or that you needed to utilize a lot more skills other than the math or science.
Yeah, one thing we're finding is that a lot of, at least in the civil engineering, I don't know if I can speak for every field of engineering, but a lot of civil engineers are children of civil engineers, and it seems like the outside world, the definition of what civil engineering and engineering in general seems to get lost in the mix.
Yeah, definitely.
And and that's the thing, because that was like a part of some research that we did, is looking at those of us that have pursued careers in engineering often had a relative that was engaged in that field. So how do we broaden that perspective? Because once again, that doesn't do much to help those who have traditionally been left out of the field of engineering, particularly children of color and females, if they don't have that role model for them. How do we create those avenues? And it sounds like a lot of what you're doing with the Boston Society of Civil Engineers is creating those relationships and role models that will help students understand that there is more out here for you. You can do this. This is a real career pathway for you. So.
Now, again, I know you were speaking earlier that your books are being used even in other countries. But I've seen even, I think, someone that heads Raytheon was speaking recently and comparing, the quality of engineering and education in this country to other foreign countries. And, I'm wondering, do you think that at this time there's maybe an unrepresented class of students out there that would be interested, but they're not getting the support that they could be getting?
I definitely think that oftentimes in schools, the type of knowledge that we tend to value is the logical, sequential knowledge, the student that can get the answers right and do really well on standardized tests. And there is a group of students that are kinesthetic learners, that they must create it in order, they're visual learners, that they have to see it in order to build it. And that's the kind of knowledge that we don't tend to measure very well in schools. And what I have found, that these are the students that, given a design challenge, they are often the best engineers. They may not demonstrate that they have the logical sequential knowledge as well as some of their counterparts, but let them have an engineering problem to solve and they will do an outstanding job. So I think schools have to really think about how students get categorized, how do they move through programs, and those that get recommended for advanced placement versus those who don't, and maybe having a bad year. So there's a lot of elements that, and I know there are schools that are really thinking differently about that, and I'm very happy to say some of the districts that I've worked in, both Framingham and Newton, have really started to address some of those very issues. But I think we need a wider spread net to look at ways in which we either promote or detract students from pursuing these careers, and I'd like to see us learn some more skills to promote students pursuing technical fields.
All right, I've been at meetings actually that were put on by the Museum of Science. They hold symposiums for guidance counselors every couple of years, and I've heard some crazy stereotypes coming out of engineers and crazy reasons why people have been discouraged from going into engineering. And some of the ones that bugged me the most, I think, was the ones that, well, engineers, I want to do a job that helps people.
Well, as a woman, I can tell you one of the worst is girls in math. There's a lot of stereotypes about girls in math. That kind of disturbs me.
Right. But focus on the happy things instead. Get away from those. You don't want to talk about those. So we should probably concentrate on things that are upcoming.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, we're going to end the conversation just a little bit earlier so we can show you some highlights of the outreach contests that are happening now since the school season is open. And I think all of these contests you can still become enrolled in and register for.
School year just started. I mean, teachers just now know all the students' names, so.
We want to thank our guest very much, Yvonne Spicer. And if there's any teachers or engineers, students, anyone who wants to contact and learn a little bit more about what it is they're trying to do, the website is www.nctl, should probably C as in candy, T as in Tom, .org.
It's on the screen too.
Oh, it's on the screen too. Okay, and join us next month. We're going to focus on traffic planning. Okay.
So now we're going to give a little talk about the things that are going on. Some of them involve all the groups, the outreach groups around the Boston area try to work together as close as we can, which is, I think, very important. Our engineering professional societies try to work with the Museum of Science, with WGBH, and several other groups. And then there's smaller groups like Salem Cyberspace up in Salem, where she's pulled together a program where kids come in and work very hard. There's all kinds of after-school clubs, Science Club for Girls in Cambridge. All these great groups are putting together a bunch of activities right now. If we can, I've put together a short slideshow about the PowerPoint about the contest. And the first one I'm going to talk about is Future City. The Future City contest, it's for 7th and 8th graders. And this one, I just love this contest. If it was around when I was in school.
Yeah, I totally would.
Yeah,
I would have been all over this one.
Yeah. First, you play with the SimCity program for a little while, and you try to, develop a good population in your city, get a good, successful city. Then you build out of mostly recycled pieces a scale model of part of your city, and then you've got to dream up how your city works, how the plumbing system works, where the people go to their jobs, where the income is going to come from, how they travel around, how you take care of pollution, where they live. Dream up everything you humanly can. And then you have a specific topic you write an essay about. Wow, we're flying on time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go fast. And then, all right, so let's go to the next one. And then you get judged at the end, but you have a good time. If you, the next slide is the winners get to go on to Washington, D.C., and those winners get to go to Space Camp.
Yeah.
The Model Bridge Contest starts on October 18th, and we're going to be we're inviting all middle school and high school students that want to come to join us. We're going to be at Northeastern University. I really hope this is confirmed as I'm saying it. Northeastern University on October 18th, I believe at 4 p.m. And
we'll have a link up.
Celeste Bain will be coming in from Eugene, Oregon. She's one of the best speakers about just fun things about engineering. I know we're throwing out the word engineering, just fun things about problem solving, let's call it instead. And then after it'll be pizza, and then afterwards the mentors all meet together and the teachers meet.
So October 18th?
October 18th.
We'll put a link under the students on our, if you watch in the closing credits, we'll have our website up. But you also have an upcoming event?
Absolutely.
Running really fast on time.
We have Educators Night coming up on September 26th, and the Museum of Science is open free to educators, free parking, there'll be refreshments, and also free admission for educators to our new exhibit called Body Worlds 2, and that's on September 26th from 4 to 8 p.m.
I went to that and I couldn't tear my 5-year-old out of there.
So registration is closing soon, so do go on our website and find the link to that for Educators Night.
And then the Museum of Science again on November 14th, the Power Up program's putting on, they're trying to get 300 people, half teachers, half engineers, and trying to get us all together, and we're going to do hands-on activities and learn to work better together and try to figure out better ways to work together in the classroom. Wow, I think we are plain old
unfortunately,
out of time.
we're out of time. Okay, so we'll see you next month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.